Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim, and welcome to Tim Talks, the show that's only partially a show, but really it's just an excuse for me to talk to my very talented friends. And I have more of them here with me today. They're two of the three-man team that make up Gigatross Games. Jake Cinkant?
Hello.
Is that how you say it?
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. And Trevor McAleese. You know, I usually ask these questions beforehand. Is that how you say it?
It's close. McAleese, not
McAleese.
the most
Okay,
obvious.
I was making it way more complicated than it should have been.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, so yeah, two of the third, and unfortunately, Tyler, our programmer on the team, is otherwise engaged today, but he would like to be here. However, at least you've got 2/3 of us. So
absolutely, and that's Tyler, your brother, Jacob.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little brother.
So, tell us a little bit about what you guys do over at Gigatross. Kind of give us a little Reader's Digest version before we dive in.
Well, we basically make Grand Class Melee. That's pretty much what we've been doing for the last the last while. The first iteration took us about a year and a half, and then now we've been on the second iteration for. Well, it's hard to actually count when it started. The engine was still adapted from the first one, so yeah.
Yes.
No, what I mean is that it's because we started and stopped and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. But the first one was released on Xbox Live, yeah.
Yes.
Because I remember
the indie games market specifically, just to sort of place this in the appropriate tier. Not quite at the Xbox Live arcade,
right.
But
But the part that's getting the best games right now, to be quite frank, I mean, let's call that what it is. It's interesting to see the growth of the independent market, which is exactly why I wanted to get people like you onto the show. As we kind of go through, I want to talk about the process of game development, and then I want to put it through a couple of different lenses, because you guys have a unique point of view when it comes to actually getting your games out there. And we'll talk specifically about the Greenlight process and the early access stages and what all that entails as we kind of go through. But starting at the beginning, you guys started the company back in 2010, yeah?
Yes.
2010?
Yes.
No, I think 2011.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
I think
2011 is when we released Grand Class Melee on Xbox Live Indie Games. Yes, but in 2010 is when we started work on Grand Class Melee.
Fair enough.
Right.
And so, what is that process like of starting a company from nothing?
Challenging, but it's the type of company that we are. It's not so bad, because you only need a computer, and that's a lot better than even a food truck. You need to spend more money to start a food truck business than you need to. But it's been challenging. I don't want to undermine the actual reality of it. It's hard.
No. Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, there's a lot of efforts that need to be coordinated across a lot of different parts of the game. And so as you kind of start to not only make this product that's going to be shipped out there, but you also have to create an identity for the company. Where did the impetus for that come from?
Well, I mean,
our identity.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, Jake. I mean, like me, and Tyler. I mean, it took us the longest time to even settle on like a name for the studio. That was kind of an important discussion that took months and months basically to kind of like finally decide on. It was after actually we'd gotten like well into the development of our inaugural project. We didn't have the name of the studio. So I don't know. It was just a sort of a creative, collaborative process, and we just kind of
where did the name come from, if I may ask?
It's a good question.
Well, it's around tons and tons of ideas and stuff. I mean, but like really, so there was Ty wanted sort of a name like pixel something, bit something, and like one idea that I had was like for Octatross, which was like a terrible mythical creature, meant like some kind of an octopus combined with an albatross, and from that, Gigatross, it just kind of happened.
Because I was going to say, it does bring up the
Games.
albatross part of the word. And
Yeah.
so I was wondering if that was a part of it. You kind of
Yeah.
hit that. Yeah, that's what I expect. And so as you kind of start to make the company, as you put the product into final stages, you had to go through steps with Microsoft to put it onto Xbox Arcade. What is that process like? I mean, as you're communicating and you're having to say, yes, no, we represent a company now. We are a thing. Is there a level of confidence that you have to build for yourself?
Well, Jake, like you handle all the interactions with the Microsoft bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say was your sort of overall impression?
It just feels like customer service. Like if you have if you have a problem with your Microsoft keyboard, and it probably takes a week between every single correspondence to try and get some help. It's similar. They're a giant company. I mean, they're doing their best and stuff. But
yeah,
I thought it was fine, actually. They were professional, and we kind of smoothed into it pretty quickly. It's pretty obvious that people at our scale are not interested in, we just get right to the point, and our needs are small. So
right, fair enough. But what was the reaction like? Did it sell pretty well?
It's rated really well.
No, that's always a plus. I mean,
as far as like sales, I mean, like we're in, say, at the upper, like 40% of the market, which doesn't really sound that great, but I mean, like lifetime sales, we're sitting at what, like around, well,
you're cutting out here, Trevor.
Yeah, you're cutting out pretty hard, Trevor. You may need to repeat that.
Like a expected market, like 75. I'm cutting out. Oh wait. So what, like lifetime sales are what, like around 7,400 units for Grand Class Melee 1, something like that.
There we go.
Am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yes.
Good. Yeah. So yeah, like lifetime sales of the game are what, like 7,500, 7,400 thereabouts. Nothing really too huge. But I mean, for Xbox Live indie games, it's enough to put us in, like well into the upper half.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely statistically significant at the very least. I mean, it's something that you're like, okay, we have an idea that works here.
Yeah.
And so for those who are unfamiliar with the game itself, let's talk about Grand Class Melee 2, the version that's actually out on Steam right now in early access that you can go and grab. And I recommend you do. Damn, it's good. Let's talk a little bit about the actual game. What is the game?
Do you want to go? Well, it's a bit of a hodgepodge. It's kind of best described as like a arena brawler game, like a fighting game, something you can just dip into really, really fast. Tyler had this requirement that he wants to be able to press A from this title screen and just keep pressing A, and then you're going to be into it in
you can win
5
the game
seconds.
that way.
So that's kind of one of the things we kept, was something that just was super fast. You could get in and out of it really quickly. The game lasts 8 rounds. Obviously, we didn't spend a ton of time on a big single player campaign or anything. It's really just about kind of just replay value, and the exercise is building an engine, which also happens to be just super fun.
Oh yeah, I'd imagine so.
So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. But yeah, you get different abilities. There's 66 different abilities you can have and mix and match with anything you've had from previous rounds. So I don't know if we've actually ever done the math. We did it actually, the math for our first game, the actual number of combinations you could have, but it's pretty large. So that offers a lot of.
I've got the number actually. There are 605 possible ability combinations. Strictly speaking.
That is incredibly impressive. And the great thing that I love about it is they're all archetypes that we recognize, and most of the spells are things that you would naturally see in those kinds of games. It's done from the top-down isometric perspective that you would find in like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.
Yeah, and that's very important. That's very important for our just in terms of adding elements of strategy too.
But then it actually runs like Legend of Mana, where you kind of have this locked area that you're fighting in, and you run around and you're recharging time on spells, and you have all these different active abilities that you can use at the moment, and it becomes a lot more of a hectic yell at each other melee than anything else, and it's great. I really enjoy games that are really great for just here's a controller, we're gonna play a game, and it's gonna be a good time, I promise.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges about just trying to get, how are we going to get we have no resources. We got to get people to talk about our game word of mouth. What's the best way to do that, right? Maybe if they try and actually badger each other enough into playing the game when they're there. Even me, like even nowadays, I play games, growing up for a really long time, all the time, and it's still hard for me to just get a friend over and just play a game. As people get older, it gets more challenging, I guess. But just
shoot, that's half the reason to have a YouTube channel nowadays is to have a work excuse to hang out with your friends.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's perfect.
And so, what is the process like now? You're making the sequel. Is it the same engine? I mean, how do you rewrite that whole?
It was the same engine, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, although the effort
currently
was made
it is the same engine.
Yes. Well, like
we've had a couple different iterations.
Yes. Like originally, Grand Cross Melee 2, Ty was rebuilding the engine from scratch, and the alpha for that iteration still exists, and there was a lot of really interesting stuff going on in like a much more sort of complicated version. All sorts of like new mechanics, like charge attacks, and there was even like mouse control and stuff. But it's just.
Oh, wow.
There was like a really ambitious kind of like dynamic costume building system that we were trying out, where basically every round, instead of having necessarily predefined sort of like finished sprites, you'd be adding an article of like an element to your costume as you progress.
Yeah, you can just change one little thing.
Yes.
Here
You should
and
talk about the sprites, Trevor. How many sprites are in the game?
Okay, well, so to represent the 66 classes, there are 20 unique sprites in the game. Like and each sprite, like each completed sprite, I've got the numbers here somewhere, but there's like a fairly ridiculous amount of animation in the game. Like well over like 1,500.
All of the
frames.
different spells, all of the different attack animations for all of those different sprites. Yeah.
Yes.
I can imagine the list is fairly extensive.
There's certainly a lot. It's kind of but I mean. It was crazy what we were trying to accomplish with Grand Cross Melee 2 originally. It was like it was
because there was double the number of classes and they're still actually designed. They could exist one day.
Yes.
I mean, it is just early access for now.
Yeah.
Which I want to talk about that. Most people, when they hear the words early access or Greenlight, they think of incomplete.
Yes.
And that's a stigma that unfortunately has been a little bit more earned than most people would like to admit.
But that's correct. I think it's correct to say it's incomplete. And
yeah, but well, I guess what I mean by that is unplayably incomplete.
Oh yeah.
You get games like
broken.
Yeah, like Guise of the Wolf or I can
that
give another
wasn't
couple
really
of specific examples, but I don't want to slander anybody while we're talking about you guys.
Thanks.
I mean, it is what it is, Some people you could absolutely call out as putting out these broken, half-done games and saying, here, give us your money. But you guys are actively making steps not to do that.
Well, yeah, our requirement was we don't want to charge people for this unless it's something they can sit down and have fun with, right?
Mm-hmm. And even then, it's not as though it's expensive. Like, I picked it up for $5.99 on the website.
Yeah. Nice launch discount,
Yeah, very much so. What is the process of getting on Greenlight like?
Well, I mean, there's just that submission fee that you pay once, $100 US, and then it's just up to you to make like a campaign page, and then you will be seen. However many people you get seen by is kind of the lottery,
Right. That's the magic number you're looking for.
Yes, but people will inevitably see your game page if you post it onto Greenlight. It's just how many of them will see it is kind of the unpredictable part.
And what do you do to kind of attract people to it?
Well, we did our best to say contact gaming websites to try to like spread the word about us, but so many other game developers are trying that. Everyone's just trying to get someone to give them a bit of a leg up as far as exposure. So I don't really know how effective that really was. Although there was a nice piece that like JT had contacted like Indie Game Mag, through like their forums and had like a nice article posted about us. But I mean, but a lot of the traffic just
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
sorry.
really, really hard to get people to talk about a game when it's still in the Greenlight process. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's hard enough
It's
just
always up in the air. You never know whether it's actually going to come to fruition, so it's hard to get people to make that extra effort.
yeah. Well, it's an awkward phase to be in because there's there's just it takes so long to actually get to a product that makes any sense that people want to pay for. And in the meantime, you have, if we're an indie studio, so you have limited resources, and then yeah,
You're
so
already having to make that timeline go even longer than you want and
yeah.
having to stretch even thinner. Yeah.
Yep.
So now that you are off Greenlight and into early access,
Mm-hmm.
what is that shift?
Well,
I mean, is there a shift? Like most people, this whole process is very kind of shrouded in mystery for most people.
Even
they
even
think
even to
that
us.
it's yeah, exactly. I'd imagine so. And most people just think that you're at the whims of Steam. And to kind of clear the air about some of this is what most people would like to hear.
Sure. Well, I mean, as it is, to be honest, they're like the actual kind of mechanism for approval through Greenlight is still something that's kind of nebulous, you know. Like
Yeah.
you're kind of led to believe that it's a question of just receiving upvotes, you know, on your game. But the thing is, you know, but you can tell how many votes a game has received. Like that's not actually like private information. Like you can find that out on Steam if you know where to look. You know, so like games are getting greenlit even though they aren't necessarily in, say, the top 100, which is like, you know, you're as a developer on Greenlight, you're provided kind of like a stats summary of, you know, of just sort of global activity on Greenlight, and the top 100 list is what you're always being compared to. And games are always being greenlit outside of the top 100, so it's not just about exposure. It's not just about the attention that your game is getting. There are clearly other metrics that are being
And they usually do it in batches, from what I understand. It's like
but they aren't being publicized anymore. You know, like for instance, like we were greenlit on December 29th, and there were something like, you know, 60 other games greenlit. You know, but you know, Valve hasn't made formal announcements of those batches since like August of last year. You know, so which leads people to believe that Greenlight is being decommissioned or whatever. But I mean, I don't see that happening.
Now,
I think
this is
they're
a
just
question that you
streamlining
can,
their store page, right?
Yeah.
this is a question that you can totally feel free to gloss over. How do you feel about that?
What about the prospect of Greenlight?
Like, would you rather just have a more straightforward, transparent, or is that fine? You know, I
Well, it's certainly better than Microsoft's system. I mean, I think
Fair
that's
enough.
obvious.
No.
But I really gotta say they really went out on a limb and tried something pretty new, and a lot of it was actually pretty good. It worked fairly good, but having your competition be the ones that actually approve your game and move it forward is just such an awkward and it's just so rife for abuse. And
like
it's
on
just
on Xbox Live indie games, just in case Tim, you weren't aware that like
Yeah,
the
that's
peer
what I'm
review
talking
system, the peer review system on Xbox.
yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the peer review system worked in that you were responsible for approving and reviewing your peers' projects. So we had to review many other Xbox projects as part of the way of getting.
No. I thought you were back on the Steam stuff. No, that's
No, well, in
Interesting.
comparison to that, Steam has a much better system.
Yeah.
It's not without its flaws, but I think every iteration of the indie scene is kind of getting better, and you know, the goal is just not to try and offload all the risk onto the consumer at the end of the day. But unfortunately, that's sort of what's happening lately.
Right. So now that you guys are on early access, you are trying to update the game, bring it to normally what would be 1.0 standards, but you're 1.0.9. Right?
Versioning is open to interpretation. You know.
Yeah, you gotta love stuff like that. No, it's great. What are you guys doing to the game now? You have a local multiplayer game right now that has all of these classes and a couple of other additions to it, but not a whole lot. What else is coming? What can we expect?
We have a bug right now, I think, that's affecting foreign language people. So
it's
that'll probably
pretty serious.
So,
oh man.
So that's our #1 priority.
Yep.
Yeah,
But with that aside, the other where it's sort of a balance between bringing our online multiplayer, which is the main promise of the full version, and then maybe just like tiny knickknacks here and there. Anything we can try and squeeze through. Well, anything we can squeeze through the into Tyler's timetable, right? Because he's you know.
He's the programmer.
He's the programmer.
He's the one that has to come up with the hard code to make it all function.
That's
you know, you could sit there and draw the sprites all day.
Yep, and you know,
not enough.
Not enough. But
gotta work.
What's kind of the fortunate thing though is that, you know, there is like kind of a nice like archive of assets that are just kind of like waiting to be implemented. You know, like things that have basically been sort of that, you know, just been saving up over the years. You know, so like for instance, like what's gonna roll out in the next update? Like just this week, I finished off like new like idle animations for all of the sprays, just like a nice little bit of polish. So, you know, because like right now when you're standing still on the battlefield, you're just, you know, you're straight as a board, you know. So it's something I've been meaning to do for the longest time, you know, and this is just kind of a nice opportunity to sort of add those little bits of polish, you know, in sort of a way that
which are incredibly important.
Oh sure,
and it's those little things that make the game feel alive.
Well, totally, you know, and there's all kinds of potential for like little sort of bits of polish and tweaks like that, you know, that will inevitably be sort of coming out update by update, you know, just like these little jobs that, you know, that they add up.
No, I love taking the things that I enjoy and figuring out how to reverse engineer them into some of my projects. Has that been any part of this process?
Oh, you mean in terms of
just making the game music-wise, you know, making the sprites look like something that you happen to enjoy. Oh, hey, you know, the white sword from The Legend of Zelda, I really enjoyed that. Let's do something like that with one of our, you know.
Yeah, one of the really, really fun documents we have going right now is our achievements document. I don't know, what do you think about that, Trevor? Because every achievement is it's an interesting pop culture reference title. You know,
I think I only got one because I didn't want to play. Or no, wait,
there's no achievements in the game yet.
Yep.
But it's one of the funner things to do is figure out interesting scenarios that would occur in the game that are unlockables, that are also sort of I don't know. It's nice to have a medium that can stretch into so many different ways. It's, you know, I'm trying not to break the fourth wall or whatever when I'm thinking about stuff, but you can't help but assimilate other aspects from other things that have, you know, from other games you might have played or something like that, right? Like you said, like a lot of them are very archetypal. So it's a fine. You are sort of dancing around making it a complete copy, but it's.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's never. Inspiration is not the same thing as theft.
Yeah,
sure.
I've never believed that.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, homage as much is you know is totally I think just a genuine and flattering thing anyway, you know.
And even then, when you are developing your own style, it doesn't come from nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it comes from the things that you love, and you try and emulate them, but you can't get them exactly.
Yeah.
And so it literally becomes this whole other thing that has flavors of you and flavors of everything else.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, and as far as like say, even just trying to like say figure out how to do things for the first time, you know, like it's not necessarily a question of emulating or like trying to copy what someone else has done, but I mean, like, you know, figuring out how sprites are actually supposed to work, you know, it's like not exactly the most sort of intuitive thing. So, you know, studying games, like I've spent like a great deal of time just like playing games, but like playing them and really studying how things work, you know, or like looking at sprite sheets that have been ripped from the games, seeing how these assets are actually made. And I mean, that's just part of trying to make a game that feels like an old school game. Is you've got to make the graphics like an old school game. You know, things got to be formatted in a certain way. Things work a certain way if you want them to feel old school.
And the collisions have to be tight and all that. Yeah.
I think it was Tracy Jordan that said, "How are you going to be great if you don't study greatness?" You know, you have to know what you're trying to do before you can do it, and you have to know it frontwards, backwards, upside down.
Well, totally. You know, and it helps that you know that like the three of us on the dev team have like a lot in common as far as, you know, the games that we grew up playing, because I mean like you know, Jake and Ty and, you know, their brother Joe and myself, you know, we've we've been hanging out since like, well, kindergarten.
Really? I was going to ask how long has it been. Obviously, Jacob and Tyler, hanging out for ever. But yeah, so that long.
Yeah, so I mean, like, we have played like so many games over the years, and like multiplayer stuff, especially, I mean, like some of our, I mean, like Secret of Mana, 3-player Secret of Mana has got to be, one of the standout kind of like multiplayer games of all time, and certainly of our sort of our combined youth,
of the formative years, yeah.
Yes, so and like stuff like Bomberman or Zelda or any of these sorts of, like, I mean, the 16-bit era had all kinds of awesome multiplayer games, So like a lot of inspiration, I think, like we owe to those classics.
And cut short too early, because I think the push for 3D just kind of ended it just really, really sort of starkly. And it's just, I think this part of the indie resurgence is just trying to get some more mileage out of those mechanics. And our game fits exactly that description.
Yep.
Now, you see games like Shovel Knight that actually take the very assets that were available to that machine, tweak them a little bit, and then make a game out of it that is better than anything that's been made in the last quite a while in the puzzle platforming genre, brawler genre. I mean, it's pretty damn great, and it's made with so simply, It's wonderful to see now that with Steam and the ease of which you can, well, I guess you would call it the ease of access. The level of entry is so low now with the price of software and hardware being so low, and
and
you can patch
that's
as much as you want
too,
over Steam without paying an arm and a leg.
Yeah. Well, the part of that is why things like early access are a bit of a concern, because now Steam is in charge of basically curating a gigantic database of games that and how is that going to happen without people's help one way or the other, right?
It's true.
People have to either tag games or rate games, and that's part of, I don't know, being a Steam user now, right?
And now you have the Steam curation system where you have all of these major Let's Players and Reddit groups and Kotaku and yada 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 all having this appraisal power,
right?
So it's interesting. It almost requires the buyer to be smarter than the developer, or else they're gonna get screwed sometimes. Unfortunately, the refund policy on Steam isn't great. There are some complaints.
Yes,
but it's a hell of a lot better than the alternative.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sure. Then it's easier to do it that way than like Louis C.K., who put out his comedy album himself on his website for $5. That's a thing that you can do with a strictly visual medium.
Right.
But since you are working in an interactive medium,
right,
you kind of have to play with the hand you're dealt.
Which is it's not so bad, man. Steam, we live in a great time, and if it wasn't for Steam, we wouldn't have all the amazing games out there. It's so easy to just get cynical. But man, we think we're so lucky to live in the age that we do, and to be able to make games so easily, like how we make them. Too, is another thing that I'm sure people 20 years ago would have absolutely loved the tools we have now. And we're making games that are emulating games that were made 20 years ago. So,
Yeah, just the concept of a developer console. It's hard to think about the exponential ramp that has gone through hardware and software together.
Yeah.
When you really because how old are you guys?
I'm 30.
I'm 20.
Oh, sorry. Go on. Sorry.
I'm 28. I mean, we are at the same level, roughly.
Right.
We were the generation that this was tailored for. My grandmother bought me my first computer when I was old enough to reach the keys.
Right.
Yeah. And
I had to learn MS-DOS, as a kid.
That entire ramp is basically our lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to kind of look back and see, there really isn't much other way that things could have shaken out. We have all of this speed now that's created this Wild West type scenario where only a couple of groups have a little bit of power right now to kind of hold most of the cards. And it's interesting to kind of take that step back from the entire process and really see the similarities between all of media, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
like, I don't know if you guys feel that. Is that something that y'all I know you're kind of focused on the game, but is that something y'all think about?
Well, the game's on a PC for after all, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, digital distribution works for. Oh, sorry. I'm.
No, go for it.
I'm even say, well, digital distribution works for so many mediums. You know, games included. You know, music. You know, movies and like television. Maybe had a bit of a rougher time of it just because of the ease of like say pirating through streaming video or whatever. But I don't know. I think it's definitely interesting. There's a lot of commonality, I suppose. You know, about trying to sell like a video game online compared to like trying to sell an album online. You know, you kind of go through a very similar kind of a process. Either way, the challenge is just trying to connect with your audience. You know, and through marketplace.
I think we have it better than the music people.
I would say so. You know, I mean, the thing is, like prior to Grand Quest Melee 2's early access release on Steam, we were distributing the game ourselves. Well, not through ourselves, but through like smaller indie stores. You know, like GOG
and
not GOG, like
GOG,
yeah, you know, Desura, you know, Indie Game Stand. You know, we have like sort of a more kind of direct store set up through a website called Itch, which is really sweet. If you've never checked out Itch, it's awesome. You know, they actually they offer the most beneficial terms as far as like because they actually, well, it's run by like this one cool dude named Leaf, but the Itch as a store doesn't take a cut of any transaction. So all that you're paying are just transaction fees to like say PayPal or like credit card companies. You know, so like, but the only downside of Itch is that it doesn't really command the same kind of an audience. You know, we still made sales through Itch. A lot of it was just referral traffic through Gigatross.com. You know, so the real thing that Steam has going for it compared to every other marketplace is just the millions of people that frequent Steam on a daily basis. You know, which separates it from Desura, where we're dealing with like tens of thousands of people, or like any of these other sorts of.
But it's tens of thousands of very intelligent, very discerning people. The people who actually make it to those niche websites are usually the ones who are thirsty for the good stuff.
Oh, totally. I mean, the ones that are willing to maybe take a chance on something, you know. But it's just, you know, it's become increasingly obvious, you know, being able to sort of compare how the game is doing on these different platforms, that what it all comes down to is just exposure. You know, you need to get X number of people to your page in order for you to get a sale, you know. It's like, so without the people frequenting the store page, you know, you just are out of luck, you know. If you're getting a slow trickle,
there's like a brute force. That's like the brute force kind of way of getting sales too, right? But I think there's also sales build organically, or at least I hope they do. Is, you know, like we were talking about earlier, hopefully people play the game, they like it, and then they show their friend, right?
You know,
that's the ideal scenario.
Have you guys been traveling with the game yet? Gone to any conventions, anything like that?
You know, we have a law in this. Oh, go. You were going to say something?
Oh no, I was going to just say, Jake, you know, your trip with with Aaron that you've got planned for.
Oh yeah, well we're going to go to there's an Ottawa, an indie game conference in Ottawa that we're going to check out. It's in a couple months. I think it's in May. So we're going to go to that one too. There's a fan expo in Vancouver, which has a couple indie game booths, but you know, VFS is right there. But, you know, I think a lot of people go down to Seattle because Seattle's where PAX is and where...
right.
So I think a lot of the industry kind of goes between Vancouver and Seattle, and a lot of ends up just kind of in Seattle. But as far as like the conference side of it, that's probably because of Valve. But the PAX, I guess, would be another option for us.
You were going to say something about there's a law.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to lose that
statement. Where we're not allowed to have video games in pubs, and I think there's a lot of places like that actually. It has something to do with gambling.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Because
I have heard of it in a gambling frame.
Yeah, well, the liquor, the BCLC, the Liquor Control Board. That's why they don't want video games in pubs.
Yeah.
But so that makes it challenging.
No, my apologies. We did a demonstration though at actually at like a local cafe. There for like the longest time there was sort of like a weekly kind of like hangout that was being scheduled by well Kelowna is home to a well the runaway success known as Club Penguin. Ever heard of Club Penguin? It's
No.
like it's owned by Disney. It was purchased by Disney. It's like a very successful kind of online community for kids basically. So
Okay.
it's kind of Kelowna's great big claim to fame as far as you know, sort of like the games industry is concerned. So anyways, the one of the more one of the founders of Club Penguin took it upon himself to start scheduling these kind of weekly hangouts to try to bring the emergent games industry together at this local cafe. And we did a demonstration of Grand Class Melee at their one day.
Nice.
But not really anything particularly substantial as far as like say shopping around like you know, gaming conventions or like anything like that. Not yet. But
Yeah,
but,
no,
but this one's gonna be good though. I mean, I could see people really responding well to Grand Class Melee 2 in that kind of a
I'd
context.
imagine so. With PAX South having just I lived down in Austin, Texas, and it was in San Antonio, so it was kind of nice to be able to actually get to one, other than the one that's actually held here.
Which one's bigger? Is PAX South bigger? Or is PAX Prime bigger?
Oh, definitely Prime.
Yeah.
This was the first year for PAX South,
Oh, okay.
and so
Yeah,
it was. I think from what I've heard from people who have been to both, it was like a quarter of the size.
Right.
Which is still not terrible for year one.
Oh, it's it's a huge, very impressive. It's, you know,
Yeah.
There's what IGF. What is it? What can you even compare to that other than BlizzCon and stuff of that scale?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it would be something around that
EA.
size as opposed to. I don't remember the exact numbers, so I don't want to estimate. But I remember it distinctly being a fairly decent sized crowd, but not as big as it should/could be.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because those are the chances to actually spend the FaceTime.
Yeah.
You know, because there are much fewer people, because there's a little bit more room on the floor.
Yep.
You actually get the chance to chat.
Right.
Which is so important. Which is why I was very blown away when you guys even reached out to me as ardently as you did. Because when you think about people who develop games, you think about people who are locked away in an office and you know, are generally inaccessible or not normal regular people. You know, so it's very important to kind of get the message out. Hey, as much as internet celebrities or you know, sports athletes or anything like that. Regular people with the regular desire to connect with regular people.
Exactly. We're all humans after all. You know, we're just in different industries. That's all. You know.
When I lose all of my hearts, do I not have to use a continue?
Just like any other.
It unites us. It unites
player
us.
one.
Yep.
We're all player one.
We're all player one.
We are all player one. You know, I think that is an excellent message to go out on here. I like that a lot. So now that we're starting to round out the end of our program, I've always enjoyed the Inside the Actor Studios method of ending on a questionnaire. So I too have a reappropriated version of the Proust Personality Questionnaire, and it goes a little something like this. Guys, what is your favorite word? We'll go with Jacob first.
Like, is this supposed to be one of those things where I answer really fast and it's supposed to be from the subconscious?
Up to you.
Articulate. That's the most inarticulate thing I've ever said, probably.
It's okay. It just took you a minute to get there. It's fine. You found it eventually. You said it great. I mean, you said articulate very articulately.
Thank you.
It just took you a minute to get there. Trevor?
Favorite word? Blunderbuss. Blunderbuss.
That's a good one. I like that myself.
Yeah.
Blunderbuss.
Blunderbuss. You know, I mean,
I just worked on a thing, and we had to create a blunderbuss, and I think we ended up cutting the end off of a vuvuzela and painting it, and
perfect.
No, it was
perfect.
Yeah, you gotta love creativity when you're in the field. What is your least favorite word? All of these will just kind of go Jacob, Trevor.
Okay.
Window?
Okay.
No, that's so bad. That's so bad.
No, you already answered. You're done.
Least favorite word. Um, orientate. When people say like orientate, it's like I want them just to say orient. You know, like it's like I reorientated myself.
I don't think it's not a real word. That doesn't
orientate? Count. I think orientate actually is, well, at any rate.
I think it was used so often in the incorrect vernacular that it kind of became like literally no longer means literally.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
and it kills me inside.
Yes. I'm glad I'm not alone in my loathing of this word, you know, orientate. Just, you know, like agreeance. It just any kind of like seeming non-word that gets
used a lot.
Can't stand it.
What sound or noise do you love?
I think, like, you know, when you have I like soda, so I don't know. I guess the fizz of soda. I like that sound.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
I went and grabbed a Mexican Coke.
There you go.
Nice. Real cane sugar in those ones.
But yes, I really like my Kai Beam sound effect that I made for the game, which is also a really awesome. Anyway,
it is pretty good.
It's a good sound.
And you, sir?
Favorite sound? Well, I'm not sure necessarily it's the absolute favorite, but a sound that I was recently reminded of. I've been on a bit of a pasta kick lately, and the sound of a great big pot of water full of spaghetti that's like burbling. I don't know. That's a really nice sound. You know, it's kind of, the water's kind of starchy. You know, it's like the bubbles are kind of like having a hard time getting to the top. I don't know.
They're a little bit heavier than normal, so it makes a nice palpable thump.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I too am a foodie.
Oh.
I went to the store earlier today to grab a whole bunch of crap, and I went there to grab a gallon of milk.
Yep.
Ended up walking out of there with like $35 worth of stuff, including the stuff to make cheesecake brownies later on this evening because I am secretly a big fat fatty.
My God, cheesecake brownies. That sounds like some sort of fusion of the best things on earth. You know.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. Oh, it's great. What sound or noise do you hate?
Well, I still have the same alarm clock since I was like in grade 6. And it's an old Sony one. It's got a green LED screen, and it has the most heinous like you know.
Yeah.
It's really bad. And plus it just, you know, rips me from dreamland, and that's not good.
No, I understand completely. I really do.
But I do it. I keep it on there because I hate myself or something. I don't know.
Because it works. I mean, it works. You know,
exactly.
You hate it so much. It's like I have to get up to turn this thing off.
That's right.
I started putting my alarm clock across the room so that way I couldn't just throw it.
Yes, alarm clocks. Most hated noise. You know, just like the sort of the low, the high frequency hum of like a flat panel television or like a monitor. You know, just like the, you know, you can hear it when it's on.
You too have tonight.
Something to that effect. You know, just like my TV makes this awful sound when you're close to it and it's turned on. It makes an awful little, almost inaudible little high
whine.
I love plasma TVs, but that is the one downside. Hey.
Yes.
It's too bad.
But you can't hear it when it's in use. It's just if you happen to be say plugging something in and you're right there at the right angle and it just drills into your brain.
Yeah, as those long Denny type noises do.
Yes.
It's horrible. What hero or heroine, no judgments here, do you identify with the most?
Man, I don't know. Is it really gay to say I really like Cyclops? Because he was supposed to be the leader, but everyone just friggin' hates him. But someone's got to be the leader. He had a sweet-ass power. I mean, Jesus, Cyclops has a friggin' sweet power, and everyone hates him. So anyway...
Somebody has to be the lightning rod.
I kind of like Cyclops.
He's just so white bread. I guess that's the real criticism of Cyclops. He's got no personality.
That's true. It's like answering Superman, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my God. We get it. Superman. It's like Jerry Seinfeld, you know?
Right. Exactly. Superman is the Jerry Seinfeld of superheroes. You heard it here first.
Yeah. So, so the question is what hero or villain do we identify with?
We'll get to villain in just a minute.
Oh, I see. Oh,
but yeah,
identify with. Well, it's probably more wishful thinking than anything. But I don't know. Ever see Big Trouble in Little China? Yeah, Jack Burton. Just
yeah,
kind of like just on kind of a, I don't know. He's a character I've always wanted to identify with. The idea of just someone getting pulled into an adventure that just comes out of nowhere, and then not even being the hero, but kind of making it through.
You're just stuck with it.
Yes.
What villain or villainess?
Villain. You know what? I hate to answer with such a pop culture reference, but I think I really, really like Frank Underwood. I think he's the kind of person who is having a conversation right now to America or to the world about exactly what sort of ruthlessness is acceptable and what isn't, right? Like if, I always say I always pose this question. If Frank Underwood passed a law that saved like 1,000 people or 10,000 people, some healthcare bill, would that like sort of undo all the bad shit he did to get to be president?
Right.
I thought like, anyway, that's a bad answer because it's so.
To what lengths should a person go to get
let's say
the betterment of
let's
man
say Frank
done?
kills 20 people to get.
It's the Ozymandias question.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what it is.
Another really, really good answer I think would have been Ozymandias. I think. Yeah,
no, I understand completely.
But Ozymandias is stupid because even though he's supposed to be the smartest person in the world, it's like, how could he be so smart that he's guaranteed to know that all these people will die? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yes. I'm at sort of a loss actually for an appropriate answer. I just was taking a quick look through a folder of movies on my desktop just to kind of like give myself a bit of inspiration. Just like the first thing that came into my head, and I don't even really think this is appropriate at all. Neither of these answers have been particularly like characterizing
well
myself.
vetted.
But the first thing that popped into my mind when you asked that was like Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies. Just I watched the first 3 Hellraiser movies recently with my like girlfriend, just in kind of like a movie marathon thing. And it was something about I've always identified with Pinhead. I don't know why. I think it's just the Hellraiser film's terrible. Well, he's supposed to be this former kind of like explorer that got pulled into this hellish underworld of pain because he's solved the puzzle box. It's got like a Clive Barker kind of like backstory to it. I don't know.
They're great movies. Like I highly recommend you watch at least the first one because they're worth it. But I really love those kind of creature features myself. But it's interesting because that kind of explores the. It's interesting that it kind of became this sexual thing eventually.
Yes. There is kind of a perversion to it all, and just the whole idea of like the pursuit of pain as pleasure. I don't know. There's definitely some sadomasochistic kind of undertones to the whole thing. Although I mean, as the movies carried on, it just became more cartoonish, and then Pinhead just was established as kind of like a.
Did they go to space?
Yeah. There was space travel in Hellraiser 4.
That's what I thought. I couldn't remember, but I remember that there was the distinctive batch of those horror movies that went to space, and I couldn't remember if that was one of them.
Another answer would be Gaius Baltar for me. I think I really like Gaius Baltar.
Fair enough. I don't know that person.
That's from the new Battlestar Galactica.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yep, that would explain it. What would be your superpower?
I guess read people's minds. I don't know.
That's always handy.
Is that like? I feel like you could do that, and then like Xavier's is kind of sweet. I think he's got like the most powerful power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not like I'm just choosing it because it would be just powerful, but because I don't know, interesting too. It's to see someone else's thoughts is like, it's not just for my own advantage, but also to kind of get at the truth always. That's what I think would be nice.
It would be really nice to kind of be able to understand someone on that deep of a level.
Yeah, even if they didn't understand themselves or something. I don't know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I do this show. It's interesting to kind of just pick away at those brain parts.
Yeah, well, it's always fun because when you pick, you just keep picking. You just realize there's just nothing there. It's just a bunch of crap, brain, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's true. You, Trevor?
Oh, as a favorite or superpower.
Superpower.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say that well, this it's well, like when you're playing, say, like a game through like an emulator, the ability to like save state and kind of load
Oh
state.
yeah, that's a sweet.
That would be
That
a
is
sweet power.
that would be an excellent power.
Because at least you would give you the power to like say be able to revisit kind of like past moments of your life and be able to try them again. It should be a little more sophisticated than just time travel. Where you're screwing up causality.
Did you see there's a movie About Time. It's kind of like that. It's with
No.
Anyway, it was pretty popular. It's rated high.
Was that the one with the bomb on the train?
No, it's called About Time.
Okay, I'll have to look it up.
But you're thinking of the one with Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, Tim, is the one you're thinking of.
Yeah.
I forget what that one's called, but no. Yeah.
Okay, no, I'll have to look that up later.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
'Cause I love stuff like that. No. I agree. That would be a very, very good power to have. It would allow you to make all of those dumb decisions. You always wonder what would happen if.
Right.
Yes. but you could still potentially destroy yourself if, say, you didn't load state fast enough. Like there's still the danger. You're falling to your death.
There's
off
still
of a bridge,
chances.
or you load the wrong state and you find yourself back in.
Oh God, are you accidentally saved when you should have loaded and you're stuck in this recursive falling
It
loop?
would be awful, just awful. So.
What would be your super weakness?
Super weakness, probably just like some kind of food or like just ridiculous pleasure that would distract me, like a big shepherd's pie or a lasagna. I don't know, just some big banquet. I think being wooed and seduced, I feel like I could be distracted and someone could probably trick me.
Nourishment of the flesh, as it were.
Yeah. That's what.
Fair enough. No. I think that is a very adequate weakness. If you're going to be weak to anything, if you're going to make the villain tempt you with something, it might as well be that as opposed to like, oh, it's a rock that I can't do anything with.
A super weakness. Probably just some sort of say being in a similar kind of idea, of being like lured into some kind of like pleasure, like inescapable pleasure state. I don't know, it's something like I don't know, being
like
I'm not
you get jacked into the Matrix and you just never leave.
Yeah,
Yes.
Eating steak with Cypher to the end of time.
To say like yes, maybe the ultimate weakness would be like allowing yourself to be maybe like the weakness of like ego or narcissism. I don't know, being pulled into some kind of I
hear you. Every time you walk past a mirror, you're stuck there for like half an hour.
Something like that. Yeah. Just like and getting nothing done. Just kind of like a trap where you've trapped yourself. I don't know. I'm not sure that's really an appropriate answer.
Was there ever a time when anyone trapped themselves in the negative zone, like Zod? I feel like that's what would happen.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah. So what turns you on creatively? What gets your wheels turning?
I think that it has something to do with just it's about people, right? It's about having the funnest times I can remember ever playing games were multiplayer games. It was either a LAN game or it was like local multiplayer, and people are just screaming at their screens and people are excited. Like we used to do, I'm 30 years old, so we used to play Halo, we used to have Halo LANs back in my day. And, those were awesome. Blood Gulch was an awesome map, and
and you would actually like physically connect two Xboxes together with an Ethernet cable.
Oh yeah, I know. I had a hub, and we connected 4 Xboxes together. We used to have 16-player games, and it was just like, I remember just being like, "Oh, this is great." That's what I love.
This is the pinnacle of technology. It can never get any better than this.
It's the pinnacle of excitement. I mean, there was you're
right.
Like how often do you have so many people in the same room, so passionate, yelling, and having a great time?
I love that there's now an emphasis back on putting everyone in the living room again.
It would be great.
You are going to have online multiplayer, but to be quite frank, this game is best played when you can at least talk to the people that you're playing with.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, one of the things we kept in mind too was that we didn't put any special information on the screen or anything, right? So anything that would be like, because there was a problem of screen peaking or whatever, right? You'd want to avoid that. So
yeah, you don't want to put anything player indicative. Anything that would give one player an advantage over the other. What do you? I was going to go off on a whole nother tangent. Trevor, go ahead.
So what like a creative turn on?
What turns you on? Yeah, what gets you going?
I always find it inspiring to see like someone executing a creative vision with like real, I don't know, like a real soul behind it, and it's very encouraging to see that kind of thing work, especially because I mean, I don't know, like as there are so many games being made these days that are trying to recapture some kind of like a retro style or whatever, but doing so in a way that's not particularly convincing, I guess. But then a game like, say, Shovel Knight comes around, like a game like Shovel Knight sort of proves that that if you do it well enough, you end up with something that feels old and new at the same time. I don't know, seeing those kind of examples of like a really soulful project come to completion, I find is a huge creative turn on.
I agree. Yeah, seeing other people do what they do best and be passionate about it, I think is one of the more common answers that I get to that question. And I have to agree. I mean, when you see people sitting there and they become fired up about whatever it is they're doing, fire has that effect of spreading.
Absolutely.
Like,
and like it shines through. You can tell which projects had a real passion behind them and which ones probably were maybe just either phoned in or say just the work of, like, say, contractors or something. It's just like passion, seeing passions. I don't know, pretty like you say, kind of a bland cookie cutter answer, I suppose, but it's that way for a reason.
It's exactly. It's true. It just is true. It's fire is a good metaphor for a reason.
Yes.
Those words become tropes and
it's
cliches because they're true.
Yeah.
What turns you off?
I think basically overly cautious or risk-averse behavior. I think in this industry too, that's what kind of things that are too that are just, they spend too much time in the echo chamber and then they get spit out, and then that's a killer for me. Right.
It just sort of ends up becoming a rote gray brown cookie cutter. Probably shooter.
Something where it's like a marketing study determined what your game is, right? Oh, zombies are really popular. Now there's like 10 zombie games on the top 20 play. Like that kind of stuff really bothers me. I have nothing against zombies, but when it starts to become
trends.
Yeah. Definitely. Not saying Xbox Live has that problem, but it does a little.
And you, sir?
I would say just probably the biggest creative turn off, I suppose, just repetition. I don't know. It's nice to change things up. Doing the same thing over and over again. It's hard to keep the spark, I suppose.
Yeah.
Which is actually, it's been one of the big challenges, I suppose, with these two Grand Class Melees, really, is that there's a huge amount, you're doing the same thing over and over again a bunch of different times, so it's like trying to stay motivated through that, and it's been a very interesting experience. Trying to prevent
you lose any of that work.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, actually,
and then have to go back and repeat it. Good God.
Kind of rebuilt all the sprites a couple of times. I don't know. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in the archive. There's a lot of stuff in the archive.
Yeah.
So
what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I don't think we've lost anything. I think it's always it's incremental. It's additive.
Yeah. I've had entire interviews done on Premiere before, and then Premiere just decides to crash. And guess what? I haven't saved in the last hour because it was only going to take an hour. It can't be that bad.
Right.
Yes.
But anywho, our next question here. What other talent, obviously, than the ones you've been gifted with already, would you like to have?
I don't know. I guess the talent of maybe another language. I'm just an ignorant Western Canadian who has just
yes, you don't get the benefits of living near the French side.
No, I took French in school, but of course that's not anything. That doesn't mean anything. It's just I kind of sort of pretend. I can pretend. That's about it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But
that's better than a lot of people can do, to be quite frank.
I would love to be able to speak another language, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's it.
Yes. Well, I would have to ask something very similar to that. I mean, like I've studied other languages. French, obviously through school. It's just kind of the standard in the Canadian public education is the default goes to learning French. Basically all the way up until all the way up to grade 12. But like when I was in college, I studied like Japanese for a year and studied Mandarin for a year. But I mean, like not enough to gain any amount of fluency really. But being truly sort of like multilingual would definitely be like a skill that that I would aspire to. And I still I do my best to kind of like stay fresh on French, just kind of in my brain. But it's like
that's one of those things. Like if you had a save state, you would go back and be like, okay, now this time I'm gonna learn just every language by the time I'm 6.
Yes.
Because supposedly that's the best time to learn languages.
Yeah, like the formative years, when your brain is sorting out how language works in the first place. Cram as many languages in there at once.
Like, do you remember did y'all have the Muzzy cartoons?
No Muzzy, no.
There was this video series called Muzzy that starred this big green monster named Muzzy, and it went through, and the entire course was in the language that you chose. They had like Spanish, Russian, French, Japanese, like the whole works, and it was kind of Sesame Street style. They would go through, here's a short skit, and now here's a couple of little segments that illustrate the concepts and words that were shown in that last skit, and then you can go back and watch the skit again and you understand the language better.
Yep.
But the entire thing is in that language, so it kind of forces you to start thinking in that. It was really good because it kind of forces you into thinking a different way.
Right.
Yep.
But I agree. I want all the gifts. Like that's my answer to that question.
Yes.
So whenever I get an answer, I'm like, no, that's the one that I want. No, that's the one that I want. No, I want all the gifts.
Yes.
Who the heck am I kidding? What advice would you give to your 13-year-old self?
I don't know. Don't be so scared of girls. Jesus,
Yeah.
That would have changed my life a lot, I think.
They're not that bad as it turns out.
Yeah, no, it's such a stupidly easy question to learn. I mean, I'm 30 years old and I'm talking about this, but you said 13, so I mean, yeah, at that time would have changed my whole world at that time, probably.
that would be good advice to pass on. I don't know. I would probably say to my 13-year-old self, it's like if you it's like, well, if you keep at it, you will indeed be
fair enough. Just that idea of perseverance.
Yeah, like you'll figure out the way. Is what I'd say to myself at that age.
Fair enough. What is something that only you do?
What do only I do? Well, I don't know if I should tell you that. No, I'm kidding. Probably.
I mean,
I don't know.
listen, we all have a couple of bodies hidden some way. So, I mean, you're in good company.
I don't know. I'm really boring. I think probably
Oh, come on. You got to have a weird habit or two that is just, that's so me.
I don't do much. Maybe that's my weird habit. Is I don't know. I kind
you
of
were the paragon of normality.
Can totally be your thing.
the paragon of normality. That's why what makes me so weird.
Fair enough.
No, I don't. That's such a lame answer. I'm sorry. These are tough questions, man. These are tough.
You're so hard on yourself.
these
No,
are
it's
hard.
fine. It really is. I'll tell you the little secret. You were asking earlier about the purpose of these questions. And I mentioned this last episode, and it's always good to repeat this thought. The process is what's most important. It's how you arrive at those answers. It's the thoughts that you give. It's the weight that you put. Are you one of those people who just throws out the first thing that comes to mind? Do you actually take this seriously? Are you concerned with how people react to your... It's, you know, all of the above.
Well, I guess, yeah.
So it's always really interesting when you get people who are a little bit more self-conscious about their answers than others.
Way too self-conscious. Yeah.
But what would you say, Trevor?
Well, I suppose I'm in kind of the unfair position of having now had a lot more opportunity to think about my answer than Jake did. You know, given this two-part filtration system.
We'll give him a second chance.
Yeah. But maybe it's arrogant to say that I'm the only one that does it, but I'm probably the only person that plays the Gradius games, insisting on reaching maximum speed with the speed power-ups before playing. It's kind of a personal challenge. I call it the Gradius super speed run, because, you know, have you ever played Gradius, Tim? Like
I have played the crap out of them.
Well, you know, it's just the game offers you the potential to reach an unreasonable level of movement speed to a point that it's just unfeasible to even control.
I don't think I've ever reached ludicrous speed. I'm gonna try that out.
You can reach ludicrous speed, but then if you get one too many power-ups, then you start back at nothing. So it's like...
Really?
But it's a personal goal of mine to someday beat Gradius 3 at full speed on one life. So every time,
such a dick.
It's a wonderful game. It's also a way to kind of get around the terrible slowdown in the game, is by forcing yourself to move it. Anyways, so maybe I'm the only person that insists on playing the Gradius games at full speed. Which, yeah.
What is your favorite curse word? Give you a nice easy softball.
You know, my grandfather was Catholic, and so he threw out a lot of the Jesus, Mary, and Joseph kind of swear words.
Oh man!
So those are pretty much my favorite. I love the Catholic swears. You know, it's always...
And you almost have to put an Irish inflection on that, don't you? Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Definitely that stuff.
Yeah,
it's sort of lighthearted and fun in a way, you know. Cursing for...
bloody Christ.
Yeah.
It's a classic, but I've always been fond of just, like, you know, motherfucker. You know, nothing has the same kind of punch as motherfucker. But it's just...
I would have to agree with that.
Yeah. What was in? Did you guys see? What was the Tom Cruise one? Jerry Maguire when?
Oh yeah.
What's his face? Cuba Gooding Jr. It was him who said motherfucker, but it was before. It was kind of like you could say it, and I don't know. He said it, and it sounded bad. It was like a bad thing he used to say until it kind of got into Chris Rock's hand, I guess, and then everyone used to say it to be cool. Yeah. But I remember it used to feel like a swear word. And Trevor, then, like, you definitely use it as a swear word, and you use it effectively.
I'm glad. I'm doing it justice, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a word not to be thrown around lightly. Once you start using them too often, they lose all their meaning. Like literally.
Literally.
I'm sorry. I'm literally never gonna let that go because it pisses me off that bad.
But you used it right just there. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Keeping it real.
Where would you one day like to live?
Well, I really like Victoria is one of my favorite cities. You know, it's like Vancouver. Vancouver's beautiful, but
is that up in British Columbia?
Yeah, Vancouver is, Victoria is the capital of BC, and it's on Vancouver Island, and it's just a beautiful town with a beautiful university and a great culture, a great town. So it's kind of like Vancouver's little island sister. So I really love that town. I'd love to.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You got a good little city, and then you've got all the ocean and water nearby.
Oh yeah, you got ski hills there too and stuff. So it's got everything. It's got surfing up at Tofino. It's got surfing. So it's yeah.
Wow, that does sound really cool. You sold me.
Yeah, Vancouver Island. That would be sweet.
And you, sir?
Well, sort of a dream at some point, I suppose. Like actually, well, in the sort of immediately preceding sort of the formation of of our studio, Gigatross Games, I was like I took a bit over a year after having finished my bachelor's degree to go traveling. I was like traveling with some friends of mine, went a whole bunch of different places, and we spent some time in like the Himalayas in like northern India. And I've always thought that would be like a really cool place to live for a while. There are a bunch of there are a bunch of small towns, and nothing is ever really disconnected when you've got internet access. It's just it would be nice, I think, to live in the Himalayas.
Yeah, it would be great to have an escape place too.
Yes, somebody said that's definitely like, hard to get to. No one's gonna bother you.
Like if you could just put one of those George Jetson-esque tubes, that just run wherever the hell you need them to go.
Yes.
The other half comes out in the Himalayas.
Oh yeah, or maybe in Rome for lunch at a bistro. That wouldn't be bad either, right?
Right.
Again, these are all things to kind of add to your save state catalog.
Exactly. When we go on the next go around, you got to make sure and do all of these things in there. So our last question here before we get out: if you have a choice, how long would it take you to respawn after you die?
Oh, like in real life?
Mm-hmm.
How long? Oh man, I don't know. I love the future, so it could be a little while. I mean. So, like, you're asking me, like, okay, if I was reincarnated, when?
Well,
or I mean, what? What do you?
Is it reincarnation? Is it you again? Is it baby you again?
I wouldn't mind me again, but it'd be me. If I live a whole 80 years, I mean, I might get tired of me. I might want a new me.
Fair enough.
But I think the future's always good, man. Put me anywhere in the future. I mean, maybe not too far, because then if it's too far, then the Earth is just
it could be
might not.
It could be all over.
Yeah. So maybe I would carry on. Maybe the day after I died, I'd be fine with that. Just kind of keep track of it.
Fair enough.
Keep track of what's going on. I don't know.
Respawning. That's an interesting question. I don't know. I would probably want to get right back into it. As much as cool as it would be to respawn 100 years in the future or whatever. I think I'd probably want to just keep going.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah.
No, like this
style.
Yes.
Once getting that is getting out of the safe zone. If like you die underwater, you would.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right.
But then again,
perhaps respawn immediately, but respawn 100 meters above my previous location.
No, that's not good either, bro. Because then you can spawn. You need to fall 100 meters. But then
it's got to be conditional. There's got to be a whole list of kind of conditions for respawning here. But the safe, yeah. Or maybe respawn. It'd be like Minecraft. As long as I respawn in bed, regardless of where I die.
I see.
I respawn immediately in my bed. Unless I died in my bed because of some sort of terrible fire or something. In which case, I wouldn't want to respawn in my bed.
Or a bacterial infection that was
some
in
sort
your
of
bed.
Yes.
Some horrible blanket accident.
Yes. So barring a horrible blanket accident or a bacterial infection or a house fire, yes, I would want to respawn instantly and respawn in my bed.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that may be the best ending point we could possibly ask for. I want to thank my guests, Jacob and Trevor, for coming on the show, and also thank Tyler's picture that's been down there in the bottom corner this whole time. We're sorry he couldn't be with us, but he was with us in spirit and in an amazing little My Little Pony drawing.
Yes.
It's been down there and people have probably been asking the whole time, but I wanted you to see how long we could leave it before I wanted to mention it, and it was all the way to the end.
Good.
Perfect.
Yep. By the way, that character's named Ulland. If anyone is concerned, or concerned is not the right word. Ulland. A very colorful D&D construct in exquisitely styled pony form. Yes.
So before we get out of here, is there anything you guys would like to plug?
Apart from our own game, you mean?
Yeah,
apart from your game. Oh, I mean, plug the game. This is the part of the show where we shamelessly whore ourselves out.
Basically, try the game. Jesus, just try it, play it, and if you don't have fun, I'll be, I'm sorry, I'll be surprised, but I think we love the game, so I urge everyone to try it.
Yes, at the very least, check out the trailer, watch it, see it in action. It's I don't know if anyone out there that enjoys old school 2D Zelda, overhead 2D gaming. It has even the faintest interest in like RPGs and just those sort of just those archetypes and tropes. Yeah, everyone has fun with it. I've yet to meet someone that has sat down with a game and didn't enjoy it. But then again, Yeah, but something else.
Yeah, a little biased.
Yeah, a little biased. Something else to plug though, just to try to be unbiased. Let's see what else to plug. I'm looking for a product. Oh yes,
Don't plug a product.
No.
What if we get famous?
Get famous. Okay, USB controllers, unloved USB controllers. I think they're
we
great.
plug USB controllers.
People should try different controllers. I think it's important.
Agreed.
It's important to branch out.
And so links to both the Steam page and their main website are down in the description below. Where can they find you guys on Twitter?
Gigatross Games, at Gigatross Games. That's us.
Yep.
And underneath you guys will be yours individually if we can find them.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that about covers it. You've been watching this on youtube.com/Tim Leftwich. My name is Tim Leftwich, as you would expect.
Well,
thank you so much for watching, everyone. And thank you again to my guests for coming on. I really appreciate it, guys. I hope you had a blast. I sure as hell did.
It was awesome.
Thanks, Tim.
Tim, it was a pleasure. Thank you for letting us on your show. It was an absolute treat to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And as always, we'll see you next time. You Canadians are so damn polite.
I don't even.
You just won't talk over each other. It was driving me insane throughout most of the year. Before long, I felt like a traffic cop just having to direct everything.